Time for my favorite part of the night, question and answers, number 19. Ooh, we're really raking them up there, aren't we? 20 questions with yours truly. And thank you, everybody, for your relationship questions, as well as your blonde bombshell question and answers, as well as your request for me to sing. God bless each and every one of you. Anyway, here we go with this first one. To appointments, do you arrive early or late? It depends on what appointment. If it's my hair appointment, I'm going to arrive early. If it's an appointment like medical, I probably will arrive late. It's just me. You love to thrift shop. What is your secret to find amazing buys? I do love to thrift shop. I actually have to thank number 2 for that, because he introduced me into shopping at places that were thrift shops. And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't thrift shop. So that's a good thing that came from that experience. I would say that I like to find clothing with the tags still on it. I like to find, well, I had my piano found at a thrift shop. Some of my carousel horses in my bedroom were at a thrift shop. So, just it depends on what my mood is. Books, I love to read. Sometimes I did find a coloring book there once, I want to say. So, it's just different things you can find. And actually, if you gaze and take the time and you have nothing else to do, it's a rewarding feeling, actually. What songs do you have completely memorized? When I was younger, I was much better at the memorizing song things. No joke. But now as I gotten older, it's harder for me to remember the words and everything. No joke. So I wouldn't say that I can remember as much as I used to. What state or country do you never want to go back to? We went to the state of Washington our senior year of high school band trip. And so many bad things happened on the way to Washington. Our bus had broke down. We hit a deer. It was just one of those experiences that when you go through, you're like, no, thank you, never again. And honestly, it may be a wonderful thing and all that, but no, just no. How do you define your family now? We're going through some trouble spots right now with the extended family. But I would say the close-knit family, me and my grandpa, which is a day-to-day, all the time, my mom by phone. Sometimes my nieces text me, sometimes they call me. So others are more distant, and I don't like that, but that's just their choice, and I'm not going to force them to be family. If they feel like being family, fine. If not, fine too, That's the way I'm looking at it. It's sad, though. I will say that. It's very sad. What traits are most important to you in family members? Honesty, and don't be don't be scared to say what you feel. We always had this thing in our family that if you were going through something bad, if you were going through something good, you shared it. You didn't keep it bottled up. You shared those emotions. And I think that, that's a great thing to have in a family. I think also, not being like, okay, there's Harmons, and then there's McDowell's, and then there's Bean. To me, when my mom and my stepdad Mike got married, something that was very important to my stepdad all the way through it was he always incorporated everyone, not just one person, as a part of a family. And to me, that taught me, when you have enough love in your heart to adopt, and you are older and you haven't been blessed with biological children, that, you know what, that is just a name, because love comes from here. It doesn't come from biological. It doesn't come from step. It doesn't, look at my biological dad, let's go there. Heck, he walked away when I was 18 years old, and I haven't heard from him since. So, sometimes the biological people aren't all they are cracked up to be. And I think that's something else that I can relate to with a adoptive child. What is the definition to your success? I would say my past successes has been, I struggle, I rise above, and I never give up. And I hope that's something that I preach to everyone. Yes, you may hit a plateau where everything's gravy, but don't get so satisfied that you lay off what you're doing and then, you know, here comes the weight back on. Here comes the doubting yourself back again. And, you're your own worst enemy. Do things to make yourself better. That's what I would say. What do you regret not doing in the last year? Well, of course, we lost my dad, Mike, and we lost my grandma. And my biggest regret for both of them will be that they both never got to see me while here on earth get married. And I wish to God that would have happened. But it just didn't happen. What's your favorite piece of clothing that you own or owned? Well, if you would have asked me growing up, through all the 80s and the 70s, we all have our favorite pieces of clothing as we grow up, right? But as we mature, we either outgrow or they become out of style, so we get rid of them. But I think now my favorite piece of clothing is some of my country music t-shirts, even the old ones from the 90s, because to me it just represents me and what I listen to, and those are very reminiscent of my youth as well, so it's something that I enjoy. What hobby would you get into if time and money weren't an issue? I can't even talk. I have always had a fascination with animals. I would say a hobby, if you will, would probably be mini cows. And I have always loved animals. And I don't care if it's farm animal, I don't care if it's a regular animal, they all have a purpose. And to me, the purpose of a mini cow is to bring happiness, and, they're just so adorable. You can even sleep with those things. And they're so fuzzy. So I think that would be adorable, just to have a mini cow, maybe a mini horse, because I love horses. So mini farm, What would be the most amazing adventure to go on? To me, I'm not a very adventurous person. The most adventure you would get out of me is go to Florida, eat at Po Folks. That would be the most amazing venture that you would get me to go on. When was the last time you climbed a tree? Oh, dear God, I was young. And I don't even think I climbed the whole tree. Excuse me, my cat's trying to climb the chair. I promise that was not planned. Anyway, I was very young, and I think I got in the middle of the tree and got scared of heights, so I just stayed there. He's just scared me. Literally, he did. Sam. Here's the next question. If you could turn any activity into an Olympic sport, what would you have a good chance at winning the medal for? Many would say getting on my stationary bike and going many miles and not knowing that I was going that many miles, which is true. So probably my stationary bike. How much time do you spend with your family? Well, with my grandpa, I see him every day. With my mom, I see her once a week, usually sometimes twice. So with my nieces, the oldest one is at Jackson, Tennessee, going to school. The middle one lives with my mom and works at the bank and goes to college at Lakeland, so I see her from time to time. And the youngest one, she's still in high school, and she's got a busy schedule, so I hardly see her as much as I'd like. But I try to keep up with all of them through Facebook, usually. Who's your go-to band or artist when you can't decide on something to listen to? Oh, good gravy. I go back to the 90s a lot when I get sick of Easton Corbin and Chris Young. And I listen to Sawyer Brown. I listen to Wade Hayes, Red Akins, Paul Brandt, just to name a few. Because to me, the 90s was country music. Just saying. But I think that's because I'm in my mid-40s now and I'm stuck in the 90s. What TV channel doesn't exist but really should? At one time, there was a TV channel called the Nashville Network. And the worst thing they ever did was take that network off the air. And I miss the programming. I miss the videos they had on that channel. It's something that's a dang shame that doesn't exist in today's world. Just like Opryland doesn't exist. It's just horrible. What TV show or movie do you refuse to watch? I am not a scary movie person, so if it has blood and guts, I'm not going to watch that kind of movie. TV show, I don't know if it's a TV show or not, but people keep talking about this Game of Thrones, and I hope that's what it's called, but it's Game of something or other. If it's back in medieval times, I usually won't watch it either. Now, there is a good movie, though, in the medieval times called Ever After. One of my favorites with Drew Barrymore in it, because it's like a Cinderella story. But other than that, no thank you. I ain't going to watch it. What's something you like to do the old-fashioned way? Everything. I can't pick out just one thing. I'm an old-fashioned girl. I was raised with those family hardcore values. And if you didn't have them, then it just didn't mash. And that's the way it worked. This is strange, because I think that's the same thing as that one. What's the farthest you ever been away from home? Washington, D.C. We went to the state of Washington for our senior year. But other than that, that would probably be the farthest, yeah. What is the most heartwarming thing you've ever seen? The most heartwarming thing I've ever seen? Would have to be, I was scared. I was a little girl. I was at Opryland of all places. I had wandered off and gotten lost. I know my family had to be frantic with worry and panic. And I got found by this couple. They couldn't speak English, and I was very little at the time, so I could barely speak, American. And all they knew was, "You lost." And I can remember them saying that over and over again. So the father gave me this teddy bear, and he called it Tokyo Joe. And he says, "You hold Tokyo Joe till parents come." Well, they went to the authorities. Meanwhile, my mom and dad were frantic, and they come running at Opryland, USA. And so was my grandparents. And so they're all standing there, like, "Where have you been?" Yada, yada. But then they were making great friends with the Korean couple, and I got the bear still, Tokyo Joe. So anytime I feel frantic or worried, I still have Tokyo Joe. On a side note, I'm going to do another question since that one was the same thing. How was your day after supper? There we go. How was my day after supper? Let me tell you. I went into Walgreens and I picked up an item. But before I went to pick it up, I got to tell you what happened. I get out of the car. I could clearly see, I thought at first the woman was having car trouble. She was in an older Pontiac, I want to say Grand Prix, had the door open, had like maybe 3 kids with her, and one was standing back to the side. Well, she shouted at me when I got out of my SUV. I couldn't make out what she said. So, the older boy, maybe about 12 I'd say, came over and goes, she was asking, "Do you know of anybody who has bread, eggs, or milk, or butter?" And I thought, that's a weird combination, but I didn't say much. And I said, "I'll get back to you." I went inside. I told the manager. I said, "There is a young gentleman outside asking for his mother about these provisions." And then another lady walked by and said the same thing, that somebody had asked her that same question. And apparently they have been panhandling in and out of that store during these past few hours. So when I got ready to leave with my one item, he went out and talked to them. I don't know what happened, but I just wish that if you are in that dire situation, go to the Salvation Army. Go someplace where they can actually help you. Sitting outside teaching your children to beg, plus you begging, sets a bad example. And another thing happened on the way home. It was just an overwhelming evening. The second thing that happened was I'm driving home, and as we get to that corner where Huck's is, mind you, I've got the green light. Over here is a light that shows that you don't cross the road. And it's, saying don't cross the road. This boy, about 8 years old or 9 years old, shoots out. And he doesn't do a walk, doesn't do a run. I would say he sprints. And he just made it across the street. And boy, did I lay on that horn, and I was going slower, and I had slowed myself down because I knew what he was going to pull. I could see him halfway across the way before he went right in front of the car. And it just scared the bejesus out of me. Kids, if a do not cross the road sign is blinking, do not cross the road. If it is lit, do not cross the road. do not cross the road. If the light is green, that means that the driver has the right of way. The only time that you can cross the road is when the little pedestrian is white and it looks like it's walking. If you do not know this, please visit the Department of Transportation. I'm sure there's a handbook. They'll gladly give you a refresher course. If you are too young to even know what it means, they'll train you on it. Or ask your parents. There's something, but please, by golly, do not let these children get hit by their own ignorance. And that's exactly what it was. And it irritates the bejesus out of me. We have children about 8 or 9 years old running out in front of cars with no parents around anyway. Sorry, I get a little heated. Now to take out the rest of my anger, I'm going to go work out.